Here's the best thing about Chavez bringing those horses. He's riding one and he's got two. There's five.
Oh, he knows.
How
Yeah.
many? How many survive in the end?
He
3.
knew.
Soundstripe.
Welcome into another episode of Blockbusters, a classic movie podcast where if you're like us and you miss the days of packed movie theaters and movie stores, then this is the podcast for you. I'm your host, Caleb Suggs. Joining me is one of my co-hosts, Dakota Lowry.
Back with a better movie this week, I hope.
And also Ernie Ferguson.
Did you guys see the size of that chicken? Dog. Hey, dog. Did you see the size of that chicken?
And this week we are doing 1988's Young Guns. Ernie has saved us from the fiasco of last week. And I know I joked to y'all that I said the movie was so much better 30 seconds in as I was watching the opening credits, but you got to agree with me. The opening montage of the music and them, them going through each actor when doing the little cowboy, wink at the camera or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
That opening montage is better than the entirety of Lost in America. You have to agree, right?
Well, that's not hard to say. I mean,
Yeah, I don't think it takes much to be better than Lost in America. Like,
you're
not asking for much
here. It's like a minute montage, and it's better than an entire movie.
I will say this: that the music out of the entire movie, in my opinion, just didn't really match the movie. Does that make sense?
No, but it's freaking awesome.
Okay.
I'm not saying it's not good, but when I think of a Western movie, I'm not thinking like 80s.
Yeah, but here's the thing with Young Guns. This is not your typical Western like we did Silverado, and you had a lot of the more traditional Western type actors that fit those roles, and this is like the hot young stars of the 80s. Emilio, I mean, these are all like young actors. It's why they're the Young Guns. So it's Charlie Sheen, Emilio Estevez. So I mean, this was more. And Ernie, I'm sure, is going to tell you because not only did he pick this movie, I'm sure he watched it when it came out or around the time it came out.
Yeah.
So, but this was more of going Western, but trying to what's the word I'm looking for?
To modernize
modernize, but appeal to the younger.
Oh yeah, I could definitely see that. Like that's for sure.
Well, when we look back at Silverado, I mean, for Westerns, to me, in my mind, that was kind of a young cast. You're talking about late 30s, early 40s. Then we get to Young Guns, and I mean, Charlie was the oldest of the Young Guns at 27. The actor, I can't remember his name, was 27. You have Lou Diamond Phillips and Emilio Estevez were 26. Dermot Mulroney, he was 25, and then Charlie Sheen was 23, and Kiefer Sutherland was 22 in this movie. So I mean, you're talking literally Young Guns is a perfect match, and it's I don't know if there's a new show that's on, I believe, Amazon Prime or Disney, I can't remember which one, that's called Brats, which talks about the Brat Pack or the group of actors that John Hughes movies. So you have your Emilio Estevez, you have Demi Moore, Rob Lowe, all that kind of stuff. So this is kind of one of those things where you have Emilio Estevez talk actively about taking movies away from the Brat Pack because he didn't like the article that came out that called them the Brat Pack. And so even though you would call a lot of these guys Brat Pack adjacent, they weren't necessarily true, I guess, members of the Brat Pack. But it is one of those things where how do you take a genre that is for old men and get people interested in it? Well, one, you get a young cast of a bunch of good-looking dudes, and then you use the music is modern, but yet it still had that Western feel to it. A lot of electric guitar and stuff like that, but still, it wasn't like, I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Knight's Tale. It's it has who played the Joker in Dark Knight.
Heath Ledger.
Yeah, Heath Ledger was in it, and it's in medieval times. But yet they literally have like David Bowie songs. They have the crowd at a jousting event singing "We Will Rock You." That's not the same thing. This just has the music more contemporary music, but yet it still has some of the old feel to it.
That adventure theme, like what you think of when you think of the Old West, just in more rock format.
Yeah, and it still had even some of the older stuff too, like with the classic shootouts, and it had the one guy whose hat gets knocked off, and the terrible deaths when people get shot, and I mean it still had all of that, like when you think of a Western, you have to have all those things in there. It had all of that, and it had all of the, like we mentioned, the newer stuff with the movies and or the rock music and things like that.
Well, if you're telling the story of Billy the Kid, you have to have young actors, and and that's the thing. Even Tunstall, I think is his name. In real life, he was 24, not an old man. So, but one of the things that has been said over and over again, that this is the closest interpretation of what happened in this war. I can't remember what county it was, Lincoln County Wars.
Lincoln County.
But again, there were some things that weren't necessarily accurate, but like the stuff that happened between Murphy and Tunstall or whatever, that was pretty close to being accurate, and said so it was pretty close. But then I also like them tipping their hat a lot to the myth of Billy the Kid. Also, that went in like the stuff with Pat Garrett, the idea they also used like one of his aliases or his real name when they were reading the article about him. The idea that everybody thought he was left-handed when he was really right-handed in real life. So that's one thing I did like about the little nod to this. For me also, for Westerns, I try to compare everything to, for me, it is Tombstone. I don't know. This is a dumb question, and I probably know the answer to it. But Dakota, have you seen Tombstone?
Nope.
Okay, that's what.
Whoa, what? Well, you know what? Now to think about, we've had this conversation.
Had this conversation,
but it still surprises me, given the fact.
Yeah, but
your mother is who she is, that you have not seen Tombstone.
Yeah, I don't know. I never really watched Westerns growing up.
Do Westerns interest either one of y'all?
Yeah, I like Westerns. It just depends. I mean, it's probably not like my grandfather loves them. But he's that generation that grew up on like the Gunsmoke and the Bonanza and all that.
Yeah.
So,
my
favorite. I mean, I love Tombstone. My favorite's probably the remake of 3:10 to Yuma. That's really good.
That is pretty good. And see, I even like the remake of Magnificent Seven, even though I don't think it's as good as the original. I like that remake. The remake of True Grit, I thought was really, really good too. But I'll be honest, this is probably blasphemy in these parts, but John Wayne movies put me to sleep. I don't enjoy them at all.
John Wayne movies are probably a little. I've seen some John Wayne movies, but that's probably a little before my time. Even though I like old movies, that probably goes a little too old for me.
Yeah, I've never really seen it. I had a friend who passed away last year who he was all about Westerns, and I mean, he really was just an old soul who.
Yeah.
And I mean, even you could sit there and talk to his girlfriend, and they were he was all like, when she went to his house, they were probably sitting down watching some old John Wayne movie or, Gunsmoke or Bonanza or, something on those lines. And so I don't know. I've never really, before then, it wasn't really like me and him would talk about it. But even now, it was just kind of always just like somewhat of a sore subject, because every time I do, I think about, my good friend. So
understandable.
My grandfather, one of my favorite memories, I don't even remember what it was he said, but he was watching some Western and he gets up and he's like, you just take that gun and go pow, 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 pow. And it's just like the motion, my 60-year-old grandfather, like the motion, he's like, he's got like the invisible repeater rifle in his hands, and I'm just sitting there like, okay.
Oh, my word.
Well, Dakota, I have a question for you, though.
All right.
because I love cracking on you because your lack of pre-2000s movie knowledge.
Oh my goodness.
There are two brothers in the main cast. Do you know who they are?
Yeah, I don't. I know that there were a couple of like cameos,
Well, I mean,
but
you can probably of the six young guns, you can probably whittle at least two of them out.
Well, yeah, Charlie Sheen and Amelia, whatever his name is. Obviously,
Emilio,
those two are.
Those are
brothers.
I would assume it would be Dirty Steve and Charlie.
No, it's Emilio Estevez.
No, he said those are the two brothers. He didn't say there's two sets of brothers.
Yeah,
but
yes,
yeah, I know. It wasn't good. A reporter didn't ask a good question. He didn't frame it right.
There are two brothers. I didn't say. I didn't. Whatever.
When I talk about like iconic like Western like actors or whatever, the first thing is Doc Holliday, in Tombstone with Val Kilmer. And for me, Emilio Estevez as Billy the Kid, I love his role here. I love the way he plays it. I love the way he is. I love how everything about it. I really do. It was him and Lou Diamond Phillips was probably a close second for me as far as the cast and how they played it.
Well, Young Guns is a 1988 American Western action film directed and produced by Christopher Kane and written by John Fusco. The film dramatizes the adventures of Billy the Kid during the Lincoln County War, which took place in New Mexico in 1877 to 1878. Stars Emilio Estevez as Billy, Kiefer Sutherland, Lou Diamond Phillips, Charlie Sheen, Dermot Mulrooney, and Casey. Yeah, as the other Simasco. Okay, whatever you say. As the other Lincoln County regulators. The supporting cast features Terrence Stamp, Terry O'Quinn, Brian Keefe, and Jack Palance. The film was released on August 12th, 1988, and it grossed $56 million on a budget of just $11 million. And Ernie, it has a Rotten Tomatoes score of what?
So you do this to me every week, and you'd think I'd be ready for it by now. But
we're what, 30 episodes in?
Yeah, take a guess what the Rotten Tomatoes score is.
I think it's like a 53.
It's a 43,
which is crazy to me. Well, no, It's not crazy. No, I can understand critics, and I can understand why on a lot of this stuff.
Oh, it has a Rotten Tomatoes of 43 and a popcorn meter of 76.
Yeah, you might as well ask Dakota to do that because he's always ready. I don't ever pay attention.
Well, I keep the tabs picked up.
Well, I mean, I literally have it right in front of me, the spreadsheet. But
I used to start asking because you always had it up.
And again, I literally have it up, and then I start going and I'm trying to find it, and I'm an old. It's
like the panic sets in.
Are we glad he's teaching the youth of America?
Yeah.
I am disciplining the youth of America. I'm not teaching them.
Oh yeah, he's disciplined now. Let me tell you that.
That's why they moved in an administrator role because they couldn't have him teaching.
Yeah,
no, I was a good teacher.
He was. I can attest to that. I'm one of his prodigies. Well, look, his role was not to teach me about pre-2000s movies. His role was to teach me about U.S. history.
Clearly, maybe he should have revised his agenda.
I have a feeling, given if Ferg had a choice, he probably would have included some pre-2000s movies in his curriculum.
Well, I mean,
he
let's
did
see.
teach a class called History of Professional Wrestling.
I did do that.
I did.
I mean, let's see. I mean, in my time, whether this is good or bad, I know I showed Wizard of Oz. Mm-hmm. I know I showed Malcolm X. I have showed Pearl Harbor.
I'm glad you showed that very historically accurate movie in your history class.
I like.
Yeah, but it brought up talking points though.
I like the actual action, the action part of it, where they bomb Pearl Harbor. Yes. Is what I liked.
I like the part where they bomb.
Most captivating moment. Well, getting back to this movie that we're watching here, or we watched here. And let me tell you, I didn't do a lot of research into this movie prior to this. I was busy a lot before, and I didn't really get a chance to look into it. This movie came on.
Take off because you're not willing to put in the work.
Hey, I'm watching the movie. Sitting down for an hour and 47 minutes and watching the movie is a lot of work. Okay. No, but I sat down and then when the title sequence opened up and I heard the music, I said, "This is absolutely from the '80s. This is absolutely like I don't know. It was staple of what I thought of like an '80s opening with something. And I don't know. I loved it.
When I sat down to watch the movie, I thought I'm never letting Dakota pick a movie again.
I actually got to thinking about that, and I was like, you know what? I'd be okay because y'all are making me pick movies about stuff that I'm like, I don't know. Here we go. Let's just go with this. Well, y'all seen these movies?
You should have listened to your wife the last time.
Look, y'all picked these movies, or y'all seen these movies. Y'all know what we're watching. So I'd be all right with just being like, all right, I'll watch it. Let's go for it.
That's a great argument. So let's pick a movie that nobody, even on the internet, has talked about. Let's do that. Yeah, I mean,
I'm gonna really get on this one.
I found one Reddit post about it.
That's great
probably
logic.
Albert Brooks that posted it.
Probably. It was really weird. It was from Albert Brooksy 2.
So it's Albert Brooks.
Oh man.
Anyways, Young Guns.
But yeah, like you said, the intro to it. You got me with one way to end or begin a movie, and that's with the calling card at the end of the movie. Also, like if you have the characters with the name and it shows the actor, or like this, the roll call here. The only problem, which I guess I may be jumping the gun a little bit, is that you have this big intro, but yet but Emilio Estevez, or excuse me, Billy isn't part of the regulators yet, but yet the intro makes it look like he is. That's one of those, again, one of those things I can see why that somebody would knock a Rotten Tomato down, because that kind of like the intro predates what we're even showing here.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in 1870s Lincoln County, New Mexico, English cattleman John Tunstall hires a wayward young gunman named William Billy the Kid Bonney to join the regulators who lived and worked on his ranch. Doc Skurlock, Jose Chavez E. Chavez, Dick Brewer, Dirty Steve Stevens, and Charlie Baldry. Tunstall tries to educate, civilize the young men in his employ and clash with rival rancher Lawrence Murphy, a well-connected Irishman in league with the corrupt House. So after the very awesome montage, we open up on the western town and we see John Tunstall with Kiefer Sutherland, who plays Doc, and they see a guy running from the law, have no idea what he's done, and they're like, yeah, we need that guy.
Yeah.
Well, but I mean, that's what Tunstall did, is he took vagabonds and whatever, I can't remember what else he said, and tried to educate them and tried to turn them around. Because that's the one thing that Chavez talked about, him doing that too with them. So, I mean, I can understand, but it's like, hey, there's a guy running away from possibly the law, yeah, everybody hates me anyways right now, so let's have him join our crew right here.
He could easily have killed us on the way back to our ranch, but here's the biggest problem that I have with the movie, and it's a problem that I have about the movie right now, but it really comes into play later on in the movie. For one, I think the movie suffers from a little bit of pacing issues at times. But I think they could have spent more time in the opening scene integrating Billy the Kid into the regulators. I feel like it's just kind of they bring him in, and then he's there for like a little while, and then some things happen that we're going to get into here in a little bit. Well, shoot. Spoiler alert.
Are we? I'm about to say, looking at our Wikipedia, I don't know if we are getting into some of the things.
Well, spoiler alert. Obviously, John dies, gets killed, and
God,
so
we've skipped a lot already.
We're gonna get there, but Billy the Kid goes on a warpath, and all the regulators are kind of following him, and I feel like it would have worked better if I felt like he had been there longer and had grown a much better brotherhood type with John and the rest of the regulators, whereas it just kind of speeds through it. It doesn't really make sense why he would be so invested in revenge and why everybody else would be so invested in following him.
See, I think it was less of I took it as less of that, and less of like he's doing it for revenge, and I think it was more that he was he was already on the run as a criminal. He had already done some things that had got him in trouble with the law, and I think he was just kind of looking, I think, for that edge, because throughout the whole movie, he makes comments that makes it seem like he's an adrenaline junkie. And that he's, he's looking like that, like the shootouts and those things, like, like riding away from, John Kenny or, whatever it was that he said that, like, just, does something for him and, like, just, just kind of just gets the jitters going in him. And he's like, I think he was looking for that.
He's a sociopath.
Literally, he is looking, like, he's looking for that reason. Like, he doesn't need that big of a reason to just go out and to get in these gunfights and shoot and to kill people,
I mean the introduction we have, then they go to the land again. To back up on what you said, Caleb, yeah, I think it needed some more time, or block it, or make it look a little bit different. They could probably still take the same amount of time, but like have a snow season go through and just have him working the pigs, the same pig scene or whatever, or the time when they're throwing the knives and he's shooting at the whatever. You can have that, just make it look like seasons have gone through, because again, it's still, not a bad length movie, and you don't want to sit there and waste building the relationships.
No,
but you do see the relationships being built at dinner, because you have Charlie and Dirty Steve laughing at him. They apologize for hacking on him, and then Dick asked, asked Billy, why did he kill those guys? Said they were hacking on me. And the greatest thing is again, Chavez's face in the background. He's just sitting there. He's got that grin on his face. He's kind of chuckling while, Dirty Steve and Charlie are going, oh man, we're in deep right now.
Yeah, I think my biggest thing is not really. I think what I was saying is more of the relationship with the other regulators, because they follow him, even though at times later in this movie they probably shouldn't be following him. So I feel like if you're going to follow him into some of the things that he's doing, you need to have a pretty strong relationship. And I
don't think they need a relationship with him to do it, though, because I think they had the relationships established with John, and they were wanting revenge, but they were the followers. They're not the only really other leader you had.
Movie, they're trying to break off. Like we don't want to go down this path.
But every time he makes a convincing argument. Yeah, I mean, he's sitting there, he's sitting there. He's like, "Hey, like, you've got to face the test. Every day you have to test yourself." And they're like, "Yeah, well, you know what? I think we're just going to go down to Mexico." And he comes in and he spins this lie.
He spins the Mexico thing around. Yeah,
yeah,
right. Yeah.
It's the biggest test of them all.
Yeah, I mean, so again, they show how smart he is when he starts reading, and all that kind of stuff. But you go back from the very beginning. Dick was in charge. I mean, he was in charge, but what's the very first thing after they were deputized that Dick had Billy do? He had him go after the guy that was that went to the bathroom. So right there, Dick gave some of his power away because he didn't want to go in there, and everybody knew that Billy would. And then next thing is Billy sniffs out McCluskey or whatever his name is, too. So again, who's going to lead? I mean, Doc's not a leader. I mean, Doc was too much busy being in love, and that goes back to your dead time during the movie or whatever that was dragging. Chavez tried to leave, but he didn't leave, and so I mean, Charlie and Dirty Steve aren't. So who else is going to? So Billy is smart enough to be able to pull on the heartstrings of we're doing this for John, and then he's also smart enough to outwit everybody. And he's a psychopath that laughs at the inappropriate times. At times he shouldn't be laughing. He's like, again, when he shoots the guy in the bathroom, he's laughing about it afterwards. Court adjourned, he said. So, I mean, you have all that kind of stuff. He doesn't necessarily have to be the leader because, or be, I guess, built the relationship to be the leader, because people will follow people. We see that currently. You'll follow people, if you're not going to be a leader, then you're going to follow. And majority of people in this world are followers. And Billy ain't. I mean, you can see that 100%. Now, again, he bided his time with Dick, but even before Dick died, though, because he was hungry and he was ready to eat, he was ready to challenge Dick right then and there, too.
Let me tell you, before we get too much further into this movie, there was 3 things that stood out to me that have nothing to do with the plot. The first thing was, I'm so glad that I never took up chewing tobacco.
Oh, God.
Oh, my word, man.
I had a hard time looking at Dirty Steve, too.
I mean, just the whole, half a cheek. And then there's the one scene where he's pulling it out of the pouch. And he keeps putting more and more and more. And I'm like, golly, dude. But the other one, I was like, this is not the Charlie Sheen that I know.
No, it's very different.
It was just different, especially when he starts praying and singing with a Bible in his hands. I was like, I don't know that I'd ever seen that before.
Charlie Sheen, early before this, wasn't that. I mean, he's not Tiger's Blood, all that kind of stuff. I mean, you can watch him in some of the other stuff early on. He was more serious. He was more, I guess, just more serious about the role. And irony back to Dirty Steve. Him calling Chavez a dirty greaser Mexican. I'm like, dude, you look like you haven't bathed since you were born, and you got all that nasty tobacco juice running down your face, but yet you're calling Chavez, dirty greaser. I'm like, okay.
Chavez, Lee Donovan Phillips, who's the most physically chiseled and clean-cut
person
in this movie.
Best head of hair of anybody that was on that
the
cast.
Best teeth out of all of them. Probably the only person with all of his teeth out of all of them.
They probably wanted him to film this movie with his shirt off, and they're like, well, I guess it's not historically accurate.
Yeah.
Which, then we also have someone we haven't even mentioned yet, and that's Jack Palance, who played Murphy. This is Jack Palance playing Murphy. Just kind of like Jack Palance was playing that one Jack Palance in Batman. Just the way he liked to talk on things. My quote this week was almost China, China, China. Just that type of stuff.
This movie has so many racist, right in borderline racist comments about things. I was like, golly, dude. I mean, there's no way this movie could be released nowadays. Not with all these.
Like Celestial Woman. I was like, Celestial Woman? Is that what they called Asian people? I was like, golly.
But, even Doc called her China doll throughout the movie when he wasn't talking to her.
Yeah. But again, here we go again to play the greasy guy. Palance does a great job of playing Murphy, and then again, all the stuff that he kept on talking to John about while Billy was sitting in the pig pen. Just making homophobic slurs and all that kind of stuff. Telling that he needs to go back and sell ladies' undergarments, and but basically tells him, I own everybody, so you can't do anything. Which, again, to me, it makes me wonder, why did they need to kill John if Murphy had everybody in his back pocket anyways? That was kind of me, Did we get to the dance yet, or is that, I can't remember.
We're not past the first paragraph.
Well, but that first paragraph passes a lot of different stuff, too, so...
Well, one of Murphy's hired hands, McCloskey, joins up with Tunstall while Doc attempts to court Murphy's Chinese ward Yin's son. As New Year's Day started, Murphy's men killed Tunstall, leading his lawyer friend Alexander McSween to arrange for the regulators to be deputized and given warrants for the killer's arrest. Hot-headed Billy challenges Dick's authority as the group's foreman as the regulators attempt to take Murphy's henchmen in alive. Instead, Billy gunned down several unarmed men, including McCloskey, whom he suspected of feeding Murphy information. Newspapers paint the regulators as a deadly gang headed by a larger-than-life outlaw, Billy the Kid.
Yeah, I was kind of... I mean, it is kind of questionable, I understand, handing a bunch of pistols to 18, 19-year-old kids and expecting them to follow the law out here, but...
I don't think they're handing the pistols to them. They're handing the badges.
They handle badges.
They handed the badges to them, yeah.
Yeah, that's what the movie is. It's Young Guns. So I mean,
well, no, I get that.
They go very out of their way to tell you that this is a young, very young ragtag group of cowboys. These are not your 30-year-old, 40-year-old guys. These are pretty much kids, and they're hot-headed and rash and a bunch of other things that are probably not good for deputies in this time period.
Which I did like. I liked the dance scenes, because that again establishes there's your relationships also. Charlie, who the whole subplot with Charlie and women, anyways, was weird. We'll get to that a little bit later. But I love the fact that he's doing the typical male thing and lying about. He was basically acting like John with his somewhat British accent, talking about he went St. Michael's, or I can't remember how he pronounced Saint, but and how he's being a doctor and all this kind of stuff, And I liked how it was Dirty Steve, it was McCluskey, and somebody else was talking. About something. They're just talking about he's talking to a woman or whatever, while we have our tallywhackers in our hand or something like that. I'm like, those are guys talking to each other right there, But but this is also the first time that we meet Pat Garrett too, in the history lore of the guy who actually kills Billy the Kid in real life.
Spoiler alert.
But yeah, spoiler alert in case anybody doesn't know history. I mean, that's like watching Titanic. Oh, the boat sinks. Oh, I didn't know that. But one of the issues.
You'd be surprised how many people don't know history. Which, granted, I'm sure there's a lot of people that don't know.
Which is why history repeats itself.
I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that if you asked who killed Billy the Kid, they wouldn't know. But to go back
I would not have known, to be honest with you.
I mean, I don't think that one's like egregious, but to your comment of the Titanic, you would be surprised how many people don't know basic facts of history.
Yeah, and if you don't know that Pat Garrett killed Billy the Kid, then you didn't watch the end of the movie. Because Doc said it in the exposition at the end of the movie. But that's neither here nor there. But here's one of the problem parts that I have.
Well, I'm talking about coming before this movie.
I know.
He just straight called you out.
He's straight. Yeah, I know. I'm like, hold on. I got to defend myself here.
But, the whole Yin Sun, yes, I can understand.
Is it son or is it soon?
Well, it says that I don't right here, so.
Well,
I don't know.
I don't know. I don't think that's how the
pronounce it. Us white people south of Appalachia call it son.
Yeah.
But I just don't want to call her China Doll or China. But there's just the whole entire storyline. Not every story needs and I'll say this with air quotes, a love story, even though Kiefer Sutherland's pursuit of her was very questionable also, much less, the P. Diddy, Jeffrey Epstein way of Murphy getting her.
I'll tell you what's questionable. Out of all the times he pursued her, the time that she decided she was going to go to them was when they were stuck in a house that was being shot up by soldiers.
It doesn't. I think the word you're looking for is not necessarily love story. It doesn't need the damsel in distress.
No, it to me that goes back to pursuit, the pursuit here, and when we go to Tombstone, I'm going to make the same argument later on too. But it doesn't need it. Whether it was true or not, I don't care. It didn't need it. True. I would rather have more backstory from Chavez. Or backstory from Dirty Steve of anybody, just something like that. I don't need to show me that Doc can quote Shakespeare and call it his own poetry. I don't need that. That's not what it is. I know it helps, establish Doc's character and things of that nature, but that really kind of anchored the movie down a lot. Again, there are multiple times when we start to get a pace going, then this relationship comes up and then it pulls it back,
Yeah, in real life, Doc is married to, or in real life, he was married to a woman from Mexico. Was not ever, to anybody's knowledge.
So not a celestial woman?
Yes.
Not from somebody from the skies?
Was it, and I think that was my question, was what they're really were Chinese and Asian people integrating into America at this point?
Well, the Chinese.
I thought it was it.
No, the Chinese were huge in building the West.
Like San Fran and all that. Like
but I mean also the railroads too. You have the Irish coming from the east. Welcome to Coach Ferguson's history class. And then the Asians coming from the west. So you did have but I mean you don't see a lot of them in this movie. I mean there's not. There is. You do have the Chinese girl, and then at the very end of the movie, you do have the Buffalo Soldiers / the African American military unit who was out west. They're the ones that come and surround the house at the end. So I guess there is some representation. Oh, and then Chavez, of course. I mean, they checked 2 boxes off of that with Hispanic and Native American.
American.
They went check. We took that off.
Oh,
but okay. Why not just have somebody stab John at the dance? Just take care of it there.
There's too many chances of people seeing it happen.
Fewer
witnesses.
But
he has everybody on his payroll. I don't really think he cares about.
That's why I didn't understand why there was this need to deputize the boys either. When again, Murphy owned everybody. But when they did another good scene that I liked is when they had the Bible out. All of them put their hand on the Bible and then they deputized them. I thought that was one of those. It was a quick scene. It was a good scene, and it showed the unity of that group. And I liked that was one of those parts of the movie that I was like, yeah, that's good. That's kind of like the intro for me. It really did good for me. I like that.
Do we believe that McCloskey was really working for Murphy?
100%.
I believe so, but they definitely leave it there. You don't get no.
I don't think he was, but
I saw him looking.
Think he was.
He was looking at what's his name, the other guy. I saw it.
I don't think he was, but
I
think Billy's psychotic and the third mind in his head was talking to him.
I mean,
but he had Doc behind him. Doc was agreeing with him. So did Doc? Is it one of those things where I say something and you think you saw it? So because I mean, Doc said he agreed with Billy.
I mean, you got it's weird. I mean, I know that John's thing was taking in guys that were having tough time or whatever, but for him to just show up and like, hey, I worked for Murphy, but I said something bad, so now I want to work for you. Is when that's your rival enemy. I don't know if I would have been taking that guy in.
Yeah, he called him fat or something like that. So I'm like, Jack Palance is not fat. I mean, he called me fat. That's one thing. I can understand that, but not Jack Palance.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I can understand how I can see the ties there, but on the other hand, like,
the way he told what they should be doing and what they should not do did sound very suspicious.
Yeah. And I thought, and again, it's one of those things, did I actually see this? I thought there was one time where the guy who was standing next to, I think, Chavez, or maybe Dirty Steve or whatever, he kind of had a panicked look whenever Billy said that McCloskey was, they had a signal or whatever, But, so I liked the expression on Doc's face after McCloskey was shot. Just, you have the spatter that was on his face, and he was like, holy crap, what just happened? And, he got lucky because the back of that dude's head blew out. He got lucky that Doc didn't get shot also at the same time, too. That's probably one of the reasons why Doc didn't like Billy. Doc loves me. I can't stand him.
I can't imagine why anybody would not like Billy.
Because wasn't it Doc that stood there at the end when everybody else rode away and looked down in the river at McCall's or whatever his name was?
Yeah.
See, and I don't know. I'm still not convinced of it. I can't come up with a good argument why I'm not convinced of it, but I'm not convinced that he was Murphy's.
You just can't fall in line, can you? Want to be a leader? Want to lead your own path? Well, with bounty
hey, buddy, I'm trying to eat supper here. It's going to get cold.
With bounty hunters seeking them all over the West and unsure where to go, Chavez leads the others on a peyote trip. One of the men on their warrants, Buckshot Roberts, tracks them down and a shootout ensues. Roberts barricades himself in an outhouse and kills Dick, and as a reaction, the rest of the regulators shoot up the outhouse, leaving Buckshot's fate unknown. This leads the others to go on the run while an injured Doc goes his own way. Chavez reveals that Murphy's corruption led to the brutal murders of his mother and her Navajo tribe, and urges the others to abandon their need for bloodshed, but Billy takes charge as their new leader, determined to avenge Tunstall. The peyote scene is pretty. I love that you get all different kinds of reactions from all the different regulators, and it's like their personalities are just it goes, all their reactions go with their personalities. You get Steve with the, "Did you see the size of that chicken?"
And he almost shooting Doc too. He's just laying ground cover there.
Yeah, you got Doc like narrating like just this very deep, and they're
"She's my butterfly." I'm like, oh, shut up, please. I like Billy. You know, he was spinning the gun around. He threw it up. He let go, and he's like looking up in the air, like, "Where'd it go?" And then he just falls back.
Oh,
but then they go through the Indian reservation. They can't see us. We're in the spirit world,
man.
But
again,
then you go to the scene with Buckshot Roberts, and I mean, first of all, it's like 7 against 1. I don't care how, and it's not like a thing where he like, you know, he's just standing there in front of them and starts shooting. Like, you telling me y'all can't shoot this guy? And then he gets in the outhouse, and I guess we assume he eventually dies, but not until he kills Dick, which I don't really know what Dick was doing. I mean, it's an outhouse. Just shoot the thing up.
Yeah.
As we have shown in previous times, bullets only go through windows and not through paper walls. Okay.
Yeah, they showed in this movie later on too.
Yeah,
the Gatling gun doesn't go through wooden walls, but you know what they say, he's killed more people than smallpox, so they're already scared to death of him.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and the way Buckshot Roberts starts, he's not standing up toe to toe. He's down. He's like kneeling on the ground. And so he's already made himself smaller, and then that's what he fires. Let's dance. And they weren't ready. I mean, they weren't. Again, it was 6-on-1. They weren't thinking. One, they were kind of scared of him. Two, they didn't think he was going to pull the guns out right then. And what one of them said, "Do you think he's here to surrender?"
Yeah.
You know. And of course, right before this, like Dakota said, the dinner scene, you know, where he starts to call them godless heathens because he was the only one that didn't take the peyote mix or whatever. So he's looking his nose down at them too,
apologizing to God.
Yeah, well, like you said, Caleb, I don't know what Dick was thinking about let's walk straight ahead, especially after the guy goes,
just.
I mean, he makes the sound.
Flank around the back of it.
That's what I'm saying. You got 6. I mean, but again, that's movie
and also,
magic.
He tells Billy to cover him. Billy never lays down any suppressive fire.
Oh, not at all. I also don't understand how they didn't see the gun barrel come out. You're in broad daylight. Okay, you didn't see the door open any at all. Didn't see the gun barrel out. Didn't see him looking out at all. Like, come on.
I mean, so, I've heard, and I've just from what I've heard or read, like these gunfights back in the Old West, like for example, what was it, the shootout at gunfight at Corral. You would have guys, you know, not many feet from each other, firing off a certain amount of bullets, and only so many of them actually hit. So I guess this is a thing back in the Old West when you get out in these like big shootouts, but still, I mean, it's one dude. You should be able to take this guy out.
I also feel like that the regulators kind of need to stop and think about ammo supply. I know movies,
especially in Western movies.
But that's what I'm sitting here thinking the entire time. Is I'm like, dude, like, y'all had to be carrying 200 or 300 pounds of extra ammo with y'all, as much as y'all are shooting and missing, you know. But also, I think one of the big reasons I think this movie like took off some of the things from took off some of the Rotten Tomato score was all of just the nonsensical deaths. Like when when Dick got shot here, Charlie Sheen's whole, I don't even know what he's doing. Like having a seizure here at this moment when he got shot, I looked at it, was like, all right, well, come on. Like, it doesn't even, like, I get this not supposed to look realistic, like, and I'm not expecting that, but he's just like bobbing his head back and forth and falling down dramatically. I don't.
That's I've sat that's one of the scenes I've sat and thought about the most, about whether I liked it or I didn't like it. It made it more memorable by the way he acted it out. Did it look realistic? Well, one, I don't know. Never seen anybody shot, but it made his death look different than everybody else's death that's been shot. Again, was it a good death? I don't know. Was it weird and memorable? Yes, I can still remember that death. I can also remember Charlie Sheen being a big time actor and going, holy crap, they just killed Charlie Sheen off like early in this movie. And that's one of those things that's another thing I remember. So to me, it was a choice. Whether it was a good choice or not, that's to be debated. But it was a memorable death, and the way he acted it out made it memorable because, again, here's a hot young actor that all of a sudden you kill off. Again, I still don't know if it was a good portrayal of death. I don't know, but what I do know is that I remember it.
You see, I do know that, like, I know, like, I get that it is, like, it's supposed to be a memorable death because this is the first death of a member of the group who isn't potentially a traitor. No, like Dick is one of the ones fighting for the leader, and then and obviously it's supposed to be this big moment where obviously they had just fought over who was supposed to be the foreman of the group, and this whole thing of, when we get done with supper, like, we'll go out and see who's supposed to be the real leader, and then like you get this moment, and I get that it's supposed to be like this, like, time stops for the other 5 or 6 or however many it is, like, as they're sitting there watching his body fall, but, like, to me, you could have. I feel like it would have had a bit more of an impact if he had been shot and just, like, fell back slowly and then just laid there. Yeah. Instead of the over dramatic. The other one that really stood out to me was, and I know we'll get to there, was Murphy's death at the end, where he just, like, gets shot in the head and then he does a full 180. It stands there for like a good 10 seconds.
People that get shot in the brain don't turn around with this stupid look on their face.
Repeat.
I was like, come on.
Yeah, I think if you get shot in the brain, you're going to drop instantly. That's just my opinion. I hope I never have to see it, or I definitely hope I never have it happen to me. But that's what I would think would happen.
As having seen animals killed and having killed deer myself, if you shoot something in the neck, it's going to drop instantly. It's just
seems reasonable.
There isn't this over. It just falls. And it just full dead weights at that moment, which I get. You can't do that in a movie. Obviously, I understand that. There has to be some, like, dramatization of it, but I feel like this was overdone a little bit.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
Doc visits Yen's son before rejoining the gang, and they kill the corrupt Sheriff William J. Brady and his men. They meet with the furious Alex, who explains that their badges have been revoked. Though they are now wanted men, Billy insists that their actions will bring attention to Murphy's corruption. While Charlie revisits a brothel, Billy kills an arrogant bounty hunter at a cantina, and the gang flees to Mexico, where Charlie marries a local woman. Soon-to-be Sheriff Pat Garrett warns Billy that Murphy's men will make an attempt on Alex's life the following day. Okay, so here's my theory. I don't think Billy gives two craps about revenge or the corruption. I think he just wants a gang and wants to go kill people.
Which is why I didn't think it was that important for them to show in the beginning, like, him getting closer to John or anything like that. He was just looking for reasons to kill.
Yeah, but I think it's tough because at some point, at other times, I feel like they're trying to push the narrative that he does care, which is why I think they needed more time spent on the relationships. But I think if you're going to look at it, like the fact that he just does not care. Then
See, I don't think he's trying to. They're trying to spin that narrative. I think he's trying to convince the other people, the other members of the regulators, that he cares, so that they'll still follow him.
The only time he ever tries to convince him that he cares is when he starts about being pals. The rest of the time, he hasn't. I mean, he's used John's death as guilt. You know,
and I think we get the thing at the end with the what do you call it? The narration of the end. I don't even know what you would call it.
Pals.
Yeah, where they talk about they go in and someone goes in and writes on his tombstone, "Pals." That to me is kind of where I bring up the whole they needed to build more time with the relationship. So because they do that thing where like, oh, they Brennan and wrote on his tombstone, "Pals," because they were such pals, they were a brotherhood, and I'm like, we just don't get that in the movie.
Well, yeah, okay. So, just looking at it, I mean, somebody created a tombstone. So I was thinking, that like somebody came by and wrote on the tombstone after the tombstone was already made. No, Pals is chiseled into the tombstone. So it's not like somebody came in afterwards.
Well, I thought no. It says in the narration that someone comes in after.
Then if they did, I mean, it's chiseled in because I am looking at the picture of it.
Well, yeah, I mean, I imagine they would chisel it, and what are they gonna do? Write it on a pencil?
I don't know, but I mean, I don't.
It absolutely looks like it was intentionally placed.
That's So, but that's neither here nor there. But then also, Charlie didn't die at that battle either. He died later, but that's
neither did Murphy, Jack Palance. He died of cancer months after. He was not even there at the battle.
Bullet cancer.
Why? Yeah. Why would he be there?
So I mean, look, and I'm not gonna get onto it for historical accuracy because hardly any movies are 100% historical accuracy, and most of the time that's because if they were 100% historical accuracy, it wouldn't be as good of a movie. So
yeah, well, Murphy's dramatic turnaround after getting shot in the forehead is nowhere near as entertaining as hey, he died of cancer.
No, exactly. That's why you have to have him there to get that final, and we're already jumping ahead, but you have to have that to get that final sense of victory. Although it is funny seeing Billy come back and shoot him straight in the middle of the forehead. It's like, why couldn't you shoot Buckshot Rogers like that earlier in the movie?
Because he didn't have it braced on his forearm.
But so this is the time I think that you may be thinking, I may be wrong, Caleb, where this slows down immensely. The going and seeing the lawyer is one thing that kind of where they all threw their badges down, which was funny. Whenever Doc handed the lawyer his badge, the lawyer he turned and just hummed it. He threw it, But you also have the going into Yin Sun's bedroom, which is kind of creepy, and telling her that he rode with a dirty underwear gang. I mean, that's not again, as the kids would say, that's not much riz right there. If you're telling somebody that you were part of the dirty underwear gang, but this is where again,
to be fair, we weren't from this time period. We don't know what riz was like back then.
That is true, but
maybe
I don't think
any gang back then was riz. No matter what you named it.
This is again. This is where the Billy though started to shine when he throws the hat past the sheriff and he's just whistling and he shoots him and it starts with the reap the whirlwind, reap it, all that kind of stuff, and the different parts that he just starts laughing at weird spots, like when he shot the guy in the cantina that was running his mouth about shooting Billy the Kid, just kind of giggling and laughing. That's where he's really showing like, okay, this dude's a psychopath or sociopath, whichever one, I don't know. So here's a theory about Charlie and women. The prostitute that they get him, that he just wants to hold. There is one opinion that is his mother.
Don't like
that's why they went. That's why he just wanted to go in there and just hold her. But Then he goes I don't buy it. I didn't say that's what I believe. I was just saying that's out there. But then he goes and gets married. Then I'm like, okay. But that's where Billy uses family or pals to guilt Charlie into coming with them, and doing all that kind of stuff, But the whole entire part, one of the things about this movie that I wish would have happened, I wished Dirty Steve and Chavez either would have lived together through this, or one of them would have died saving the other one. Because at the wedding, when Chavez tells him,
Hold on, Steve did die saving Chavez at the end, didn't he?
Steve was coming down the stairs or whatever, and Chavez was bringing in the horses. I don't know if that's, which we'll go into that part a little bit later too.
Yeah.
Here's the best thing about Chavez bringing those horses. He's riding one, and he's got two. There's 5 of them.
He knows.
How many survive in the end? 3.
He knew.
All right,
I don't know what Chavez saw on that peyote spirit trip.
No, he saw the movie poster. He saw Emilio's name, Kiefer's name, his name, and Charlie Sheen died. So that must mean everybody else underneath it ain't gonna make it. So we ain't gonna bring horses for them. But
you got Steve there like, yeah. It's like, oh, Steve. Steve.
He ain't the sharpest tool in the shed. But it was funny, because that relationship between Steve and Chavez was adversarial the whole entire time. Then at the wedding, they're basically Steve was basically saying, "I'm glad we're riding together," and that's when Chavez tells him, I held a blade up to your throat many times when you were asleep. I'm glad I didn't kill you. And Steve just like going, "Oh,"
You did what?
And then how mad Steve. Well, that goes back to the house again. But, I really like the buildup of Billy starting to become the leader and more. He's not unhinged. That's the scary part. But being more just deceptive and more pushing that whole entire narrative to the point where when he meets Pat Garrett and Garrett tells them about what they're going after the lawyer, Murphy's going after the lawyer, he asks Garrett, "Are you my friend?" And he turns his back to Garrett. And Garrett starts to reach for his gun. But then he said, "We're friends," and then walks off. So again, Billy's in full. From the explanation of the whole, like I said earlier about the Mexico, not going back to Mexico. Man, y'all are really wanting to sharpen yourselves type of stuff. He was able to convince all these people to kind of come back.
Yeah, and I think that the scene with Pat Garrett is pretty cool, just because it's kind of a call out to the way that he really dies. Where I don't know if you know the story where Pat Garrett's kind of hunting him down, and Billy walks downstairs or something. It's like at nighttime in a house, and he like sees a shadowy figure, and it's like, "Who's there?" or something like that. And then Pat Garrett shoots him. So it's kind of like, I guess in the Old West it would be considered. I don't know what word I'm looking for is.
You want to shoot somebody that has a gun in their hand, not someone that's unarmed.
No, it's unhonorable.
So, well, at Alex's house in Lincoln, the gang is surrounded by Murphy's men and famed outlaw John Kinney. Realizing that they were lured into a trap, the regulators survive an entire day's shootout. U.S. Army troops on the houses Army troops on the houses arrive. What?
Let me pull it up.
This sentence doesn't make U.S. Army troops on the houses arrive. That's what the sentence says.
I don't remember. Where did they come from?
Why is the houses capitalized?
Okay, I don't know. U.S. Army troops on the houses arrive. That's what it says. As does Murphy himself with Yen, who runs inside and is reunited with Doc. Murphy orders the soldiers to set fire to the house, while Alex's wife leaves unharmed and Chavez slips away. Trapped in the burning attic, the gang throws Alex's possessions out the window, including a trunk with Billy inside, allowing him to surprise their attackers.
You want an explanation? Lawrence Murphy, a well-connected Irishman in league with the corrupt house. So that is the name of
U.S. soldiers.
It's the Santa Fe ring. So it was a ring.
Was capitalized.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. I saw that capital. I was like, "What is that?" Surely I'm missing. Anyways,
it still doesn't make sense though. I think it says U.S. Army troops and the houses.
No,
and the houses.
No, it says U.S. Army troops on the house's tape.
I know it's what it says, but what if it's mistyped and it's supposed to say U.S. Army troops and the houses?
No, it's correct what it's saying, because on the house's tape means on the house's payroll.
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
On the take.
Okay, so
I understand now. Yeah. Okay.
Now. All right. Okay. Glad we got that out of the way. Now back to the movie. The whole. I mean, first of all, it's in real life it was like a 5-day shootout, a standoff shootout type thing. So it only lasts a day, but that's fine. I mean, it's dramatic and So the scene of throwing Billy in the trunk.
Oh man, you're gonna skip it. You're gonna skip part of the whole.
You're skipping a lot of stuff in here. Yeah,
go, take it away, Artie. But I have things I want to say about the trunk. So
yes, we will talk about that trunk too.
But you go ahead.
But yeah, the first thing is when Billy looks at Doc and says, "Let's have some fun, Doc," and he starts laughing, and then hey Pepin, he talks about Charlie Crawford. Yeah, he's with us. Hey, and then he turns around, pow, he shoots him in the head, and then he's laughing. Hey, Pepin, Charlie Crawford ain't with you anymore. Again, that was just kind of that made me. That was again another thing that I loved about Emilio Estevez, just the way his presentation there. But we already talked about Yun Sin or whatever coming in the house, but please tell me how Chavez got out of the house.
Oh, I have no idea. It makes no sense.
That makes about as much sense as what you're about to start talking about, Caleb. To me, they both make the same exact amount of sense.
It's what he traveled through the spirit world first. Traveled through the spirit world,
which then also you have Murphy showing up in a carriage, and you're going to tell me that Murphy's actually going to drive his own carriage? Nah, he's going to have somebody else drive that bad boy for him. But it was really interesting. That whole entire interaction between Murphy and the sheriff's men, and then the U.S. Army also, he was telling the U.S. Army, burn it. I mean, I don't care. He was shooting out all the directions there because, again, he was in charge, So
I also loved when John Kenny arrived and Charlie, who's over there? It's John Kenny. And they continue on with the conversation. It's John Kenny. It's John Kenny. Okay, thank you, Charlie. Like, golly, I loved it. I thought to be like that. I think to me that was one of Charlie's more humorous moments in the scene in the whole film that stood out to me. I don't know. I liked it.
This scene was so good, but as we're about to talk about, it's so bad at the same time.
Oh yeah, it goes off the rails pretty quick.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. Well, the trunk. It's incredibly fun to watch. And again, I mean, obviously this is not realistic. You wouldn't do this in real life, but it's a movie, so.
You wouldn't, Suggs? You wouldn't let me toss you out the window in the trunk?
Probably not. I'll think about it, but probably not. But I think thinking about, and it's obviously it makes for great cinema because he comes out, pow pow pow, it's fun. But just thinking about the ways that this could go wrong. Number one, they throw him out and the trunk breaks, and he just goes flying over the house. But I think my favorite possibility, just thinking about it makes me laugh. Imagine they throw that trunk out, and it doesn't land where he can pop out. It lands on the lid where he can't pop out. And he's just stuck in there, and they're like, "Why did y'all just throw this trunk out?"
I tell you the funniest thing that I thought about.
Kicking. Oh.
I tell you the funniest thing I thought about is if the latch stays down, the latch just closes over
just
the
latch, not even something, just a
latch. Just the latch is sitting there, and he's just sitting there hitting the lid, trying to get up.
Which I could have sworn. I have to go back and watch this. I could have sworn when it lands, that the way the hinges were, and again, I could be wrong, that when he opens up, he should be facing the house. Now I'll have to go back and look to see that. But I could have sworn because I remember watching that. And again, I'm not going to say I have the greatest power of attention, but that was. But yeah, I mean, how is he not concussed? Also, getting thrown, and that plus now, I want to know how many of them threw that thing. Now again, Emilio Estevez is not very big, but that's still a heck of a chunk that they threw out there to get him out there.
And also, I'm about to read the second paragraph here quickly, the last paragraph, because it continues on with a little bit at the ending of the fight. But like you're talking about, you have all these guys, these cowboys, whatever that are under Murphy's payroll. Then you got the U.S. Army. How, when he pops out of that thing, is he not just immediately getting lit?
They have a whole Gatling gun.
Bullets.
Okay, that goes back to part 2 that's wrong with this scene. They have a Gatling gun. And when did they use it? When the lawyer came out with a white hanky in his hand. And he was making fun of them for letting them escape. That's when they decided to use the Gatling gun instead of, I don't know, any other time that they could have used it.
The other thing that really bothered me about this is when they lit fire to it. First off, you're in the middle of a dry desert. There isn't a lake. There isn't a body of water for who knows how long, how many parts around here. Second off, why didn't this house catch fire quicker? I mean, it's all dry wood in here. It's all paper in here. There's hay and things like that in there. Like, this house would have went up in flames a lot quicker than what it did.
Hello, it was the house was stopping bullets. You don't think it can't stop fire also?
Oh, absolutely. But my third thing is
they don't make things like they used to make, Dakota.
Oh, absolutely.
The
third thing I think about is if you're in the middle of this desert and there's nothing else that's going on around you, and you light this house on fire, do you not think it's about you just torch the whole town? Because you're not going to be able to get water to it quick enough to put it out.
It was a controlled burn, okay?
Yeah, a controlled burn right in the middle of the city.
Well, no, but now in fairness, though, the house was far enough away, and it had a bunch of like sand and stuff and dirt around it that it possible that it may not have caught anything else.
You're going to tell me that an ember is not going to fly off into a piece of hay in the neighbor's house?
I mean, how far away is that? I mean, you have to go back and look.
Those buildings were pretty close. I remember looking at it and seeing that there were buildings fairly close enough that you would have to worry about.
I thought the house was like it was at the end of the street, that it was away from not away, but it was far enough away from things because you still had the fence line that was so far away too. But regardless, burn it, use a Gatling gun, just all that kind of stuff, and that whole entire ending. It's fun, but it's one of those things where I definitely have to turn my brain off. Okay, just enjoy, how Dirty Steve got out to begin with without getting mowed down is one thing, and then thinking, okay, Charlie, you idiot, you just got married, and then you didn't even get to go on your honeymoon, you got mowed down,
Homeboy didn't even get to sleep with her. They were still in the in the wedding celebration.
Yeah,
when they left.
So and then again use the Gatling gun on Chavez and the horses?
Yeah,
again,
and that's was I right in this, or did I hear that they were convinced that they had like 30 or 40 people inside that house?
Yeah, that's what one of them said, that they thought they had a bunch, which again is a nod to real life, because in real life they did have
more regulators. Yeah, they cut down the amount of regulators in this movie.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense.
That makes a lot more sense. Not only there were like different gangs of regulators. There were like, I think there was some from like Mexico too. So they definitely them being, and I think that's like Fernie said, that's a nod to real life, because
Okay, because I mean, like don't get me wrong, like I can, that makes more sense than just, hey, there's 5 people up here and it sounds like there's 30 or 40. Or you're not going to sit there and tell me that they're shooting like there's 30 or 40 people up there.
I do like Emilio Estevez's line delivery of "Reap It" at the end. Now, again, Plance's acting and getting shot in the head is a little extreme, but just the way he said the line "Reap It," that was one of those things I really like that. I like that. And again, now how they escaped and how they got down that street without getting shot with a Gatling gun, and how he's able to back up and then shoot Murphy. I'll suspend my disbelief there.
Well, I think we've pretty much discussed the ending, but I'll go ahead and read the last paragraph. In the chaos, Chavez returns with their rescued horses, and Charlie and Kenny shoot each other dead. Doc and Yen ride away, and Steve gets a wounded Chavez onto the remaining horse to ride away at the cost of being gunned down himself. Alex is gunned down by a Gatling gun, and Billy escapes after shooting Murphy between the eyes. An epilogue from Doc reveals that Chavez took work at a farm in California. Doc moved east and married Yen's son. Alex's widow became one of the most prominent cattlewomen of all time, and Murphy's ring of corruption collapsed. Billy continued to ride until he was killed by Garrett and buried next to Charlie at Fort Sumner, where someone later carved the epitaph "Pals." All right. Well, like I said, we kind of already went through the ending there. That still cracks me up. Just thinking Chavez coming around with 2 horses. There's 5 of them.
My question is why was he on a horse? Got off the horse and then was trying to get back on the horse.
Again, the editing at the very end.
They also used a ton of slow motion in the in the
yeah.
Probably more than there needs to be. But
so a lot more than there needs to be. There needs to be slow motion in 2 deaths. In Murphy's death and in Dick's death. And that's really it.
Well, I mean, he must come from the Michael Mann school of directing, and having the slow-mo type of stuff.
Well, here we are at the ending. Anything to add before we go on to rankings?
No, I think we pretty much beat the dead horse here.
All right. Well, we'll move on to our ratings then. I'll go first. Well, as I've said many times before, and I'll continue to say it because y'all like to tease me, so I like to tease y'all too. Watching this after watching Lost in America makes me think that this movie was about a 27 on the rating scale. But no, I mean,
is this the first movie you've watched since that?
He had such a bitter taste in his mouth that he didn't want to watch any movies. He was debating whether he wanted to do this podcast at all because of that.
Well, it's a busy month for me in work. Probably my busiest month.
And not a consistent month either. It's all over the place.
Yeah, it's all over the place. So yeah, I mean, and so I'm trying to think back if I have watched the movie since then. I can't remember. I don't know. But anyways, going back to Young Guns. No, I mean, I was looking forward to watching this because I think I'd only seen it once before, and let's see, we were in. I'm trying to think. I would think I would have been around 13 or 14. So it's been 15 or so years since I had seen it. So I was excited to watch it again. I mean, obviously, all of these young actors from the 80s, Emilio Estevez, Charlie Sheen, Kiefer Sutherland. I mean, these are great actors that I love. And I like Western movies. I'm not like the biggest Western fan, but I like them. And this is a fun one. It's got some great performances. I do think it suffers from some pacing issues. Like I said earlier in the podcast, I think it speeds through at the beginning, it slows down, gets back up, slows down a lot, and then picks up. And it just, I think if they could have worked that out, it would have been a little bit better. I looked back just to see. I try not to rank. Even though I do it, I try not to rank movies based on what I've ranked other movies. But I did go back and look to see what I gave Silverado, which was the other Western that we did, and I'm pretty sure I gave it a 7.5, which made me feel good because after I watched this, I thought in my head, I was thinking, I think this is an 8. And so when I saw that I'd give Silverado a 7.5, I like that because I think this is a better movie than Silverado. It's not a great movie, so I think that lands me on an 8, which is what I initially thought.
You tell me Mask of Zorro isn't a Western?
Okay, well, yeah, I guess so, but it's not what I think of when I think of Western. You know what I mean? It's like a swashbuckling.
That's an adventure,
Yeah, it's more of like an adventure
When I
swashbuckling.
think of Western, I'm thinking of the Old West, like this. This gunslinging cowboys, and so
a bunch of dirty white guys that are shooting at each other.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think I gave Mask of Zorro an 8, which I probably would, I definitely like Mask of Zorro more than I like Young Guns, but I'm gonna go with an 8. I feel good about it. It's fun. I enjoy it, which, I mean, to me, that's as long as you enjoy a movie, as long as it's not Lost in America. having a good time.
Yeah. Yeah, for me, this movie, it's one of those movies where I will rewatch it. Well, I'll rewatch parts of it. The whole entire movie, like you said, pacing, some editing leaves some to be desired. But again, one of my favorite characters from Emilio Estevez in this, I really think stole the show, and I really liked Lou Diamond Phillips in this also. But it does lag, which for some reason I think that happens a lot in westerns. Because again, we'll talk about other westerns that I think there'll be times where it just kind of drags also. But when we watch, I do mentally compare this to Silverado, and there are parts of Silverado that I enjoy much more than Young Guns, and then there's parts of Young Guns that I enjoy much more than Silverado. So in that case, I am giving Young Guns a 7.5, just like I gave Silverado.
So, I mean, don't get me wrong, I enjoyed this movie, and I had fun watching. There were some pretty humorous things. Even like we didn't even talk. I don't even think we talked about it when he was in the outhouse and he turned around with a gun through his zipper. Like, there was a lot of times that it got a good chuckle out of me that I enjoyed. But like I said, the movie does have its issues, and we've talked about those. And like Fergus said earlier, I'm not going to beat the dead horse, but overall, I think some of the acting was done well, and I think it showed, especially like in Charlie Sheen. To me, I think it kind of showed range and a little bit of the things that he can do, especially because everything that I know Charlie Sheen in, he's been a lot less serious than what he was in this film. But everybody else, man, like you mentioned, Emilio Estevez, like, I mean, I think he did a great job playing Billy the Kid. I really think some of the actors did, but I think I'm gonna give it a 7 out of 10.
For me, 7.5 from Ernie and a 7 from Dakota. That's easy math. That brings us out to a 7.5. Ernie, where does that land us on our rankings?
That puts it at 24. It's just below Beverly Hills Cop, and hold on to your britches, right above Star Wars.
Huh.
All right, so 25, is that what you said?
Yes. No, 24. 24.
Okay. So 24 for Young Guns, below Beverly Hills Cop, right above Star Wars. If you would like to see our full list of rankings, you can go to our website, podpage.com/classic blockbusters. That is podpage.com/classic blockbusters. You can check out our full list of rankings. You can see our episodes. You can write into us, and you can do all that fun stuff. You can also check out our Facebook page, Blockbusters, a classic movie podcast, and listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube occasionally if we get it uploaded.
Everything but last week's is uploaded.
And
which I don't think Suggs would be upset if we didn't upload last week's at all.
For anybody that was worried,
I enjoyed recording the episode of Lost in America. I did not enjoy watching the movie, but
I'll say, if people were worried about it, Lost in America is still last. So I know they were kind of concerned whether it wouldn't be in the basement anymore. It's still in the basement by a long shot.
Dakota, if you pick a movie that goes below Lost in America, I'm going to come through the screen and slap you in the face.
I don't know.
Max and me.
I'm sure there's something out there. And right now, I'm fearful that you can find it.
You wait until I pull out Emmett Otter's Christmas next. Emmett Otter's a puppet Christmas, okay?
Let's wait a while until we're like at episode 300 or something like that before.
What
we
is
do
it?
that.
Emmett Otter's Jug Band Christmas or something? I don't know. Hey, but rest assured that every week we do this, that Lost in America falls further down with the number. It went from 29 to 30 this week.
How many points behind the next highest is Lost in America?
The next highest is 6.5, and so Lost in America is like 2.75. But
3.75 points.
I mean, if you're gonna be, we have a bunch of movies that are lost in the rankings. Lost America is not lost. It knows exactly where it is. Everybody will know exactly where it is. You can. Some people will ask, well, where did y'all end up putting Princess Bride, or where'd you put Batman? We don't know, but we know where Lost in America is.
Mm-hmm.
At the bottom, where it will stay.
Hopefully
for a very, very long time.
Hey, somebody had to pick the first straight to video. Somebody's got to pick the first matinee as well.
No, they didn't have to. we could have gone for probably 100, 200 episodes just watching good movies before we got into one that was bad.
Hey,
you made the unilateral decision.
You have to understand, we're not doing this for our enjoyment. This is for the people, man. We've watching things so people don't have to watch
We
them.
literally started this podcast so you can watch all these movies from pre-2000. Don't tell me we're doing it for other people.
And I haven't watched Lost in America.
Lost in America was in the deep cockles of his brain folds that he said, I think I want to watch this movie that I've never heard of that I just found on this one internet search.
I'll be honest with you, I have no idea why I think that. There's no idea.
Well, you told us you looked up obscure movies. Why are you searching obscure movie? You haven't seen things like freaking Star Wars.
Normal blockbuster movies.
And you're searching obscure. That's like an Ernie. If there's anybody that's going to be searching up obscure movies, it's Ernie Ferguson.
I do it one time.
Well, but you also said a few weeks ago you were like, I wanted to do a Nick Cage movie and somehow landed on Moonstruck.
Well, we hadn't done a romantic comedy. That wasn't that bad of a movie. I enjoyed that one. Enjoyed it better than Lost in America.
All right, Caleb. You're going to make me break out my checkbook for this next movie. What are you going to torture me through?
Oh my gosh!
Well,
far be it that Ernie Ferguson have to spend a couple bucks to rent a movie.
Yes.
What did you do back in the days of Blockbuster? We talk about how we missed the days of Blockbuster. What did you do?
Oh, we didn't spend very much on Blockbuster, to be honest, again, because my parents didn't do that either. But again, that's...
If it wasn't on the satellite.
Yeah, here's the thing, though. I mean, if we were, hint, monetizing this, which y'all feel free to send in, like, donations, I don't know how, but, then that's one thing. But this is just for
we're going to set up a GoFundMe.
Yeah, this is for poops and giggles right now, and so there's plenty of free stuff out there. But and some of us don't get movies illegally. Just saying. We go through the proper channels.
I don't think any of us on here do that, Ferg.
No, nobody does.
Nobody on this does.
No, we don't. All right, so next week, we are going to go to 1998, and we are going to watch Armageddon. And that was not the movie that I was going to pick. I made a swerve at the last second. Mostly because I didn't want to do a movie with the same actor in two movies in a row.
Oh, that is absolutely how I pick stuff out. We've done that before.
Yes,
two movies in a
row.
I
landed on Armageddon, which is a major blockbuster. It is not some random movie that no one's ever heard of.
I'm not talking about that.
A Kiefer Sutherland movie is what you were looking at?
That's what I was looking at. Yes. And I'm guessing you know which one.
Have you found it yet, or is it still lost?
No, it's there. It's there.
Okay.
Yes. You're the
Thank you. There we go.
Yes.
Now we're talking in riddles.
Yes, the movie that I was contemplating was Lost Boys, and I'm sure we will do that eventually too. But
Suggs, you have to Suggs, you have to rate this one too.
No, we're doing Lost Boys. Forget it. Okay. We're not doing Armageddon. I changed my mind. Ernie has enlightened me, and I'm not saying this with Matt. You know what? I want to watch Lost Boys, so we're gonna do Lost Boys. Forget Armageddon. Forget Michael Bay. We don't need to see all his explosions and unrealistic thingamadoos. We're gonna do Lost Boys.
You act like we twisted your arm. I mean,
no. I'm not mad at all. No, you're right. I want to do Lost Boys. So
why is there somebody playing a saxophone, shaking their hips on a stage in this trailer? The Lost Boys. I don't know. It's 1987 with Jan Fisher, James Jeremias, and Jeffrey Boehm.
No, Kiefer Sutherland, Jason Patrick, Jamie Gertz.
What is this movie then?
Is it on Peter Pan stuff?
The Lost Boys, right?
No. Yeah, no, this is not. This is
the Lost Boys is a vampire movie.
Vampires.
I mean, it came out in 1987, but I don't know what movie you're talking about.
I mean, literally, if you type in the Lost Boys, that's the first thing that comes up is Peter Pan.
And IMDb, yeah.
How about just Google?
Yeah, Kiefer Sutherland? Yes, it has Kiefer Sutherland. We just talked about that.
Well, I can't hear.
We're getting there.
No, pulled up the same movie.
What? Are you?
I will make sure. Is it the one with the blue poster?
No, it's a red poster. Poster looks like this. Can you see on my screen?
Yes, that's the one that I have pulled up here.
It's 1987. Rated R.
Yes. That's the one. It had. I don't know. It was in the trailer on IMDb.
Who did you say was in it?
Oh, Rip. Didn't he die?
According to IMDb, it is that was the writers. Stars Jason Patrick, Corey Haim, and Diane Wiest.
Didn't Corey Haim die?
Somebody's asking if Corey Haim died.
That's a good question. If he did, I'm 100% sure it's over drug overdose. Yes, he died in 2010.
Yeah, he did die. He died in 2010.
All right.
What movie was
we're already going long. Tell Kamei to stop talking.
No,
I was about to say you could have cut us off. For some reason, I thought we were cut off already.
No, we are not cut off already. We are still going.
Oh, absolutely.
We'll see.
We are going to do the Lost Boys.
Put me on loud. I can't hear.
We're going to do the Lost.
The Lost Boys.
The Lost Boys next week. So we will see you at the movies next week.